Okay, I know for myself personally, I don't want to knit on anything smaller than a size 3, US 3 needle. Anything smaller is awfully hard on my hands. And I'm aiming for a little bit thicker sock anyway, so I may even go to a 4 when I get ready to knit this. But I'm gonna hope this will show. Here's the Corriedale, and see when I stretch, it's got good stretch, but see how there's not a lot of gap there, and then it bounces right back. And the same with the yarn. Now I'm gonna need to apply this a little bit tighter when I spin for my actual sock. See that this is the end of the thread, but see that it needs to be tighter plied. But I'm hoping this will show you. Can you see the bounce in that? Compare it to the Navajo Churro, which I wouldn't expect to be. It's not known for being a bouncy fiber. I do like the yarn it produced though. But, so once again, here's the Corriedale. Now here's the Navajo Churro. And can you see, you can even see holding it up, a little bit more space in there. The yarn's not wanting to pull together, poof together, and give me that density there. I'm going to show you this just to show you there's density and stretch in the south down, but just those little bubbly spots. Too bad because it's a beautiful color. Maybe I do a stripe or something. Then we get up to the Suffolk, and you can already see, and partly because this was a thinner yarn on the same, these are all size 3 needle and all 12 main stockinette stitches. But you can see that, you know, there's too much airspace in there for me for a sock. This is the Shetland. Same thing. This was probably my finest spin, so you can see there's way too much loose fat or open air there. I'd need to go down a needle size, and I don't want to go down a needle size or spin a thicker yarn. And then I did the Corriedale again just because that was my top contender, and I just wanted to try it again. So you can see where this little example, this took me about 10 minutes to knit. You know, that's not counting the spinning time, but then to just sit and knit this. One thing about the Corriedale too that I'm liking, the fabric, I should have got a better sample of the yarn that I spun. This has been kind of walked around, but even though this is a lot thicker yarn than the Suffolk or the Shetland, which were 2 other choices, and it does need to be spun a little tighter. Because Corriedale is one of the breeds, and there are several like this, there's a lot of poof factor in that crimpy fiber. And it's stronger than like a merino or cormo, but there's a lot of crimp and a lot of what we call poof. When you wash this, you might spin it this tight, and then you wash it and it's going to poof up. But it's also, then it can compress. And so it's going to be comfortable on my foot. A good Romney that's on the softer end of things. I think Fin Sheep would do this. CVM, although CVM tends to be a little fuzzy or spongy, I think. But it would work. But, oh, what are some of the other breeds? Like a Parendale or a Polworth would do the same kind of thing. Border Leicester, although it's a little bit longer staple, Border Leicester and a lot of Romney. But Border Leicester has a lot of that same poof. And if you've worked with it, you know what I mean. So anyway, that means that I've got a little bit thicker material here, but it's got some good give and some comfort to me, and it's going to keep my foot warm. I love the Shetland and the Suffolk. If I don't do a striped sock, I might do the Suffolk for heels, toes, and cuffs. I don't know. What do you guys think? But then that's a down wool. I could spin the Shetland a little bit thicker, because then I would have wool and alpaca at about the same ratio. So I'm going to think about that too as I spin. So if you have enough fiber, or even if you don't have enough of your chosen fiber and you just want to experiment on how you're going to spin, what your yarn is going to end up like, and what it's going to knit like, do this as a little sample. That's your homework assignment. Pull a little 2-3 foot piece of roving. If you have a bat, pull a little strip of bat. Spin your singles, ply it together, and knit a little sample. And if I'm not being very clear about that, please just ask me. I'm trying to think, if I were new to doing this, am I explaining this very clearly? I'm maybe not. So that tells me that the Corriedale is the fiber that I want, that I do need to ply it a little bit tighter, and that that will work then well on the size 3 needle. So there, your homework is to spin a sample and knit just a little. It's not a gauge swatch, like I said, just a little material test for yourself. And carry it around with you for a little bit. Okay? If you have any questions, be sure to ask, or if you have any comments or opinions about this, please share with us. This is for everybody to learn, including myself. Okay. That's all about that for right now. I said I was finished talking about our sampling yarns, but I thought maybe you'd be interested to see what the fibers themselves look like, some of the locks. Now here's the Corriedale, and I hope that's not blowing out too much, but I like that the sunlight coming in kind of shows you the fiber. This is just a little piece of lock pulled off of the roving. You can see that it's very well prepared, very smooth. And because this was my own fiber and I put it together to be processed, I know for a fact that the alpaca fiber and the wool fiber were approximately the same length. And this might be a good time to say that that's something to consider. Maybe not for this if you're not putting it together yourself, but you might be tempted to say, well, I've got a lovely long wool that's very strong, something like a Lincoln or a Wensleydale or Teesdale or something like that, even a long stapled border Leicester or English Leicester. So, okay, you know that's a long and a silky and a strong staple. Or the Surrey alpaca that we talked about. And then you might think, well, so I'll combine that with the bouncier, tighter crimped, softer, shorter fiber. And then I'll have the best of both worlds. But it's sad to say it doesn't work that way. Even if they're well blended when they're processed, the short fiber, when you spin, the short fibers and the long fibers, you can't make the short fibers longer and you can't make the long fibers shorter. And they're going to separate a little bit as you spin them. That's where maybe the short fiber is going to pop out and cause a little bit of pilling on your finished fabric that you knit. So while those can be fun yarns to spin, they aren't going to make a smooth sock fiber. So I thought it might be a good time to say that. So that was the Corriedale. Now here is the Shetland that was my second choice. You can see it was a little bit shorter stapled and quite fine. You can really see the crimp still in this. I'd love to see the Shetland sheep this came from. I think I used to have a picture, but I'm not even sure these folks are still raising sheep. And it's a dark charcoal gray, which doesn't really show here in just this little sample. And this shows like there is a little bit of neps in there. But when I was spinning it, I didn't find that to be the case. And some good bounce to that. So that was the Shetland. And now here's the Suffolk. That was my third choice. And you can see it's a little shorter staple. And this is no alpaca or anything. This was just Suffolk. They did add a little bit of sparkle to it. That doesn't detract from it for me. But look how well processed this is. Very well processed. So this was a longer and stronger stapled Suffolk, and then Zeilingers did a really good job. So that's that staple length. Now here's the Navajo Churro, and like I said, that was a 3-way swirl, which just means like 3 different colors of wool, and then they're processed and then processed together. It's really pretty. And you can see it's a really long staple length. sometimes too, when you get the swirl like that, I did this myself with some Corriedale wool. They tend to be a little bit different, and so you see when you draft that they want to pull apart. But I'm really excited to spin this fiber for something, just not for this pair of socks. And then here's our little, like I showed you in the fiber episode, our little south down. You can see how dense and plump and bouncy it is, but you can also see that it's full of weaknesses. So that's that. Does that give you any help with your fibers? Let me know.